So Alyssa's on today to be our guest speaker to talk about motivation for everybody. And I'm so excited to have her on here. I've been working with her and she's been helping me and coaching me. And so I've learned a lot from her, and she has an amazing female entrepreneur empire that she helps lots of women and has lots of cool conventions and stuff like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn the time over to her and she can talk to us. Cool.
Perfect. I love it, you guys. So it's probably going to be kind of a hands-on call. I want to hear about you guys. I want to know what you're currently doing, what your struggles are, like what you're doing that's awesome, that's working. And so we're totally going to dive into that. Before we do, I guess I'll tell you kind of the things, obviously, that I focus on so that you'll kind of know which direction to tell me, kind of what you're working through. So basically, passions of mine are like branding, marketing, sales, like mostly like branding and marketing, but you have to be good at sales to have a sustainable business. So branding, marketing, sales, and then also mindset, right? Because you have to have a good mindset. And there's just something about it. We hear people all the time say, you have to, and if you're in business for 5 years, then you figure it out, right? Like the average business takes 5 years to make it or break it, right? And it's so true, but it's not true for the reasons everybody thinks. It's actually true because it takes your brain that long to process and to kind of like shift and adjust all the mindsets and the beliefs that you have, which is why I love personal development books and like so many things. And we host seminars because it doesn't take that long to shift it if you know the right things. And I think that's where a lot of people get led wrong. It's, that's a statistics that was found like forever ago. And it doesn't take that long. My husband and me, our first year in business, the first time we actually kind of jumped and took the leap into business, we were making $0 when we quit our jobs, and we totally just made this dive. And I can tell a little bit of my story later if you guys want to hear it, but we made this dive, and it only took, like seriously guys, 6 to 7 months for us to be able to figure out how to have over 10K months, which was really awesome for us at the time, because once again, you cut everything off, you go to zero. We were making over 100K before that in our like employee jobs, right? You cut that completely off, and then only take 7 months later. And so I will say there's still shifts that are making, now I own 4 different companies, and they're all in different areas and different industries. But I will say one thing that I've like heard so many people talk about is how long it takes to really become successful. And while there's a lot of truth to it, it's all in the mindset. It's all in the, what are you believing? What are you doing? And then the action, right? Like the doing piece, right? And so, but if you can put your mindset and your actions together, it changes so many parts of the game. And so, that's like the reason that like I wanted to get on here and talk to you guys, because I know you guys have some awesome goals and things that you just hit. And so there's been some really cool things happening inside of the company that you're with, but also I'm sure just in general in your life, as parents, as husbands, wives. Like I'm not sure like exactly the whole demographic here, but I will say life can be tough. And coming out of summer, going into fall is one of the busiest times for people to kind of figure out how to get back on track, especially as business owners. You come off of a month of August. By the way, anybody who could just hit that goal that you guys are working towards is incredible, because I don't know if you guys know this or not, but August is one of the slowest months for business. So I always tell my people, if you can prove to yourself that you got it in August, you can prove to yourself that you got it the rest of the year, because that's a tough month to come out of. So coming out of August, it's now the 30th, going into the fall, which is obviously a really good time for business, into, holiday season, which is an even better time for business. There's no time better than right now, seriously guys, right now, to build your teams, to build your clientele base, to get yourself out there, to brand yourself, use the marketing tools that you're going to be taught, and then actually like go and sell, right? You got to do all of it. Okay. So that's kind of like, it pumps me up. I love marketing, branding, sales, like I said. So I kind of want to get in though. I want to hear, what are some of the biggest things that you guys are working towards right now? So I'd love to hear some of your guys' goals. So I'll just kind of, I can either go around and ask them by one, or we can totally just jump in. You guys can just kind of jump in and say, hey, my goal is, 1 new builder. My goal is 10 new builders. My goal is this rank, like whatever it is. I just want to hear your guys' goals.
Yeah, so if you guys want to like hit unmute when you want to talk, and then you can hit mute again if it gets too noisy, and then you can like mute yourself back again, and then she can hear everybody. But don't be afraid to just unmute and chime in.
Me first.
Okay, there you go.
I eventually want to be a diamond. I have a lot on my plate. I have 4 kids at home. My mother just passed away, so that's kind of been a struggle with me and my business that I'm trying to jump back in. So I want to earn Ruby's Retreat. I have until December, but I want to earn it by November. I don't have to push right there at the end. I think the only thing I'm struggling is really finding my identity in this business because I'm trying to do it the way everybody's telling me to do it, and it's not working. So I need to find my way to do it so that it works for me, if that makes sense.
No, 100% makes sense. I love that. Find identity. Okay. I love it. And obviously earn a Ruby's retreat by November. Okay. Love it. Awesome. What other goals do we have? I feel like there was one in the comments. Let me go here really quick. Hitting Ruby by December. And that was Ruby. Okay. Perfect. Okay. What other goals do we have?
Lori, do you want to go ahead and say yours?
Yeah. Hold on. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, sorry, I just walked into my work.
So
mine feels like right now I just want to survive, but no, I would like to be, I've been saying senior Ruby by December 1st, but maybe December 31st. It's a big lofty goal, so I'll have to look at it and see if it's doable, if it's reality. Eventually though, I want to be a diamond. I want to be able to pay my mortgage. Plus, I want to be able to, these are my big goals. So I want to, so this is kind of like my why. I want to get out, I have some credit card debt and I want to get out of credit card debt. So I've got to become at least a jewel to be able to get that done. So, but right now, I just would really like to get that extra $100 from Brooke for the cruise. So anyway.
Love it. No, I think that's awesome. I love it. So really quick, what would it do? So, because you said survive, so extra $100. So extra $100, is that going to give you the cruise, or is that going to, like, what would the $100 do for you right now?
Okay, so actually, if I could earn that extra $100 from Brooke, it would also probably put me in the running for the $150 from corporate for the cruise. I've earned the cruise, and the next prize is $150 cruise cash. And then Brooke has challenged us who've earned the cruise to get 4 more people, either ambassadors or customers. And I've got 2. I just have so many people who are fence sitters. I cannot get them off the fence. And my problem, I think, is duplication. People that I get signed up, they have no desire whatsoever to share. And so that's been my problem.
Okay. Love it. So I'm going to circle some things. I take so many notes, you guys. Okay. So I love that. And then let me really quick read this one. I don't think I'm used towards retirement. My goodness, I don't have a retirement plan. Awesome. So Jean, this is your retirement plan, essentially, right? Retirement. Okay. Love it. Let me close out of those. Okay. Let's do one more. I want to hear one more goal.
All right, so my goal is to be Emerald by next June. My husband is medically retiring from the Army, and we technically, I want to make it so he doesn't have to have another job because he's already worked so much. And what he really wants to do, he can't do to really bring in a lot of money right now. So I want to be able to make enough so that our family can survive with or without his med board money, and no matter how much he makes with the med board. I would like to be able to pay off bills with it and to set some aside for retirement, and so that we can actually take vacations if we want and when we want, and not have to worry about what we do, where we go, stuff like that.
Love it. And what rank did you say you were going to want to hit?
Emerald.
It was called. Emerald, okay.
Yeah.
Love it. It's just easier for my brain to picture that. Okay, cool. I love it. So we're totally going to get to anybody, by the way, who wants to share their goal, just post it in the comments, because I definitely want to hear all of them. what I want to do, so I kind of wanted to get like, kind of the thoughts of like, where are you guys going, right? Like, what are you guys trying to create? Because I think that's a really big piece to understand in business. There's a lot of people, and you hear it all the time, like, law of attraction, visualize it and all that stuff. But one thing that I like found, and I love this, and I don't know the saying exactly, but basically, the biggest problem that we have is that the problem is not defined. And the problem can't be defined if you don't know where you're going. And that sounds so simple, but really, if there's a solution, there is no problem. And that's kind of the way that I like to look at it. And so when I attack business in any of them, you guys, literally, it's like somebody gives me a problem and I'm like yesterday, I had somebody call me and say, hey, by the way, we're going to have this extra $1,000 charge for our event. We weren't planning on, and this is next week, you guys. And like everyth's basically paid for. We're like, hey, we're good. We have a few things that'll come out after the event. So that, and we're like, yeah, that's totally fine. We're good. But here's that you're going to have an extra $1,000. I mean, you spend $7,000 on the event and you have an extra $1,000 charge. It's not something that is the owner of the company you want to hear most of the time, And so people are like, hey, Alyssa, this is what's going on. And I was like dealing with other stuff. As a business owner, you put out fires a lot. You're the person you're basically just solving problems all day long, right? I mean, you have customer service and all these things, but those are all problems that you're solving. And it's so funny because I'm like doing all this stuff and I get that. And I was like, and somebody just kind of looked at me and I was like, I was not even going to go there right now. Give me 20 minutes. Let me chill out. I have to step into my personal development. Like, I'm not going to freak out right now. I'm going to like maintain my stuff, right? And then I'll solve that problem for you. And so it's kind of funny because most of the time when it comes to, what we actually want, there's two things you're going to need. You're going to need personal development and you're going to need business strategy. And I think a lot of people get the two combined, and that's where you have to know, when do you have to step out and be intuitive, if that's the word that you want to call with it? Like, personal development for me is all about connecting to my intuitive self, right? And so when am I going to step out and be intuitive? And that's the first thing you always do because you want to make sure in alignment. And the second thing is, getting educated, being on the business strategies of what you're doing. Somebody mentioned it, how do I duplicate this? Because it feels like everything that I'm like, trying to be told to do and I'm doing it, and it's just not working. And how do you apply those systems and those strategies and still make it work for you without being the same as everybody else, right? So there's a lot of different things that go into it. But what I will say is, if you can solve the problem, well, first of all, if you can see the problem, you can solve the problem. And if you can solve the problem, there is no problem. And so I love it. My goal is to be double diamond. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to keep writing these down. Yeah. And so literally, you guys. And so the biggest thing is just being able to solve the problem, have the energy to be able to solve the problem. So I'm going to help you guys solve some of the problem in this. And then towards the end of this call, how long can I go till? Am I good to go forever? Do you want me to like wrap up at a certain time? You just tell me really quick.
We usually go for an hour, so you're good till 10. So yeah.
Okay.
And then if you want to keep going and they just hop off, great.
Okay, I love it. I have a speaker call at 10, so I will, for all of the speakers at our event. So I will jump off at 10, but I will go the entire time until 10. Okay, so here's what I'll say. So I obviously can see this. I'm gonna go through some of these things that I think, because I think there's some similarities, and that's kind of what I was looking for, is like, where are you guys going, like collectively as a group? And this is what I love, surrounding yourself with people that are moving forward. And we hear it so many times, but even though you have this core group of people, there's still other people in your life that you're surrounding yourself with that might not be the best influence. So how do you move on to this group as tight as you can? And that's moving forward together. And so I'm going to kind of teach you guys some of the things that I thought were kind of some patterns that I'm kind of noticing in here. I'm going to go through some stuff. The first thing I want to talk about is the reality, right? Because let's be honest, there's a reality. It's real. Some people will say, just quit your job and jump and make the leap. And while I did that, and my husband did that, a lot of people don't believe that we did that. Actually, they think it's like a made up story. Like, you want to see the bank statements of like negatives and like power getting shut off and, trucks getting repossessed and all these horrible things, right, that happen when you make that leap. And so I don't think the leap's for everybody. Here's what I'll say. I think if you're going to make the leap, you have to be willing to make it through the leap without going back. And that's the only way you're going to survive. However, I do believe that like reality is real. So just, I'm going to disclaimer, I believe that it's real. I believe that everybody has a situation around them. You look around you, you have this reality. It's very real. However, your reality is what you make it. And we hear this all the time. And, once again, I'm just going to go here, you guys, because it's real. As somebody who owns 3 6-figure businesses and one that is like brand new, but like on its way, I want you guys to understand that literally you create your reality. And so this is the way that I like to view reality. It's all about your definition of it, right? You have a timeline. Okay. So there's a timeline. Here's you, right, stacked down in the middle. You have this past and you have this future, right? This is your timeline. The problem is most people base their reality on their past. They look at their past and say that is reality, right? But really what needs to happen is you need to understand that right now is your reality. whatever you're sitting in right now, like look around you, like seriously, take a second, breathe it in, whatever car you're driving, whatever house you're sitting in, wherever you're at right now, that is your reality right now. Not what happened in the past. Not that, I failed when I tried to hit this goal that one time when I was, 7, or I was in school, or this and this happened. Like, my reality is what is right now. And the awesome thing about that is that you can change your reality at any moment. And that's what people forget. And so looking at your future going forward, I like ambitious goals. Actually, I don't even take on clients that think that they, I always tell my clients, like, if you don't think you can hit your goal, then I won't even work with you, because you have to at least believe that it's possible, or you're already setting yourself up to fail, right? And so talking about like the reality, I know it's like, oh, I have this reality, it's real, like, debt is a real thing. I'm sure, everybody's experienced that at some point or another. If you haven't, that is amazing for you. And so literally, you guys, like, understand that everybody goes through these hard things, and there's no difference in who, the hours that you have in the day versus the hours that I have in the day, versus the hours that some billionaire and millionaire has in the day, right? Like, that's the thing, is that there's the same hours in the day. And I was talking on one of my lives last week about this, and it's crazy. So you get people in a room, you go to like these parties and stuff like that. There's this guy, he goes to a party, multi-millionaire, right? He's at this like yacht party. He's super excited because he gets to hang out with billionaires for the first time. And this is a true story. He literally was saying that, he was telling us the story. It's amazing. But he like goes and he hangs out with, all these billionaires. He's super pumped. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna hang out with all these billionaires. It's gonna be awesome. I'm gonna learn some stuff. Well, he has a business, or a few. So he's like, okay, I have to step aside for a second, and I have to go over here now, and I gotta like answer some emails. I'm gonna go over here in this like little pit thing and take care of business, right? Like take some phone calls, emails, all that stuff. So he goes down there to do it, and the guy that he was like most excited to meet, like this I won't say multi-billionaire, but I can't quote that. So we'll say billionaire. He's this billionaire, and he's in there, and he goes to like, this millionaire goes to hang out and do all this stuff. And he finds this billionaire over there. And he's like, dude, this billionaire's here. That's so cool. Like, and he almost wants to give himself a pat on the back, because, it's like when you're doing something that somebody ahead of you is doing, you're like, yeah, I'm awesome. But equally, it becomes a form of justification for where you're at right now. And so if you didn't write that down, make sure you write that down. Do not pat yourself on the back for being like everybody ahead of you all the time. I mean, it's good to recognize, because it's a form of justification, right? So he's down there, he's like, yeah, I'm so awesome. Like, I'm like, doing these same action steps this guy's doing. Like, he's answering emails. I'm going to be on the right path. I'm doing the right thing. I'm going forward in life because he's doing it and I'm doing it, right? But then as they got talking, he started to recognize the difference in the two. And this is where, when you see somebody that's doing something ahead of you that's awesome, you're like, yes, I just need to keep moving. I need to keep doing that thing. Figure out how they're doing it differently. So yes, recognize that you have similar qualities and all these things, but figure out, what are they doing that's making them more successful than you? Because most of the time, it's either a really simple business strategy twitch that's like literally like simple, like in wording or like copy or like that kind of stuff, or B, and this is the bigger one, it literally is a mindset shift. It's what they're willing to spend their time on. It's how they honor themselves. So he's talking to this guy, and they're super pumped, right? He's in there and he's like, oh, this is awesome. I'm answering some emails. I have this company, this, and he's like all proud of himself, right? We've all been there. Literally. And then the guy is like, and then he realizes, he's looking for like, okay, what are we doing differently? And he realizes that the billionaire is solving $1 million problems. He's not solving $50 an hour problems. And he's down there answering phone calls from his team. He's messaging people and he's doing all this stuff, but he's literally solving, $50 problems, $500 problems. Like, he's solving these problems that are at a much, much, much smaller level. And that's when you realize, oh my gosh, like I'm spending my time solving the wrong problems. And kind of like I said earlier, it all comes back to problems. Because if you can see where you're going, you can define where you're going. When something stops you from getting there, you can define the problem. And if you can define the problem, well, now you can find the solution. And if there is a solution, there is no problem. So with that being said, like, I want you guys to really look at yourselves and like, look at the people that are ahead of you. Look at where you want to go. Recognize the strengths that you have inside of you that are natural gifts and skills that you've developed over time. Like, I want you guys to really sink that in and hone those in. But I also want you to start paying attention to the difference in it. Somebody walked in my office earlier and was like, hey, this is so cool. Like, there's this guy, he's doing this, and like, I have this quality, and when he was in school, he wasn't doing nothing. So that's awesome. Cause I did nothing with school. And I was like, you realize that like, you're just making it okay that you did nothing in school, right? Like, none of that's bad. That's part of your story, but don't justify it because somebody ahead of you did something similar. So when you hear stories, they're great. They're good motivators, but really find the difference in them. That's what I want you guys to focus on. So reality is past. And most people, they focus their reality on the past. Your reality is your current, and have ambitious goals because that is your future reality. And unless you want your future to look like your past, I would actually recommend taking, not saying the term like, this is my reality, but once again, knowing there is a reality. So like, if you have bills to pay, yeah, you might not, and you know that like, okay, I don't know what it's going to take for me to like actually make this successful. It's an intuitive decision to make the jump into how much you're going to work. But what I will say is a lot of people, you know, spend their time, and maybe this is you, maybe it's not, but you spend your time doing things you don't love. And I love this because my husband, actually, he loves watching a few different TV shows at night. Like that's his out, right? Like we all have different things. And he'll watch maybe like 3 hours of TV a week. And so that's all right. For me, it's NASCAR. Like I'll watch, you know, 3 or 4 hours of NASCAR on Sunday. That's it. But other than that, you can't get me in front of a TV because I just won't do it. And so it's cutting out those things that are distracting your current reality. So we're going to talk a lot about your current and your future. But here's what I want you guys to talk. Here's where I want to go. Inside of that, somebody else kind of mentioned, you know, that you want to earn this like retreat. You are excited about it. And you really just got to like find your identity. Like, how do you find your identity in what you're creating? And so I'm going to ask you guys some questions, and I want you guys to kind of journal these out. If you're driving, just think about them. If you're in a place where you can write them down. But be honest, and honestly, let go of the, like, all your whys for your company, all your whys for your family. Just let go everything and just be completely like kind of clear right now. And I want you guys to answer these. So first one, I want to know, what drives you crazy about the world? Like, what do you wish was different about the world as a whole? And once you guys have like your answer, I want some of you guys to just unmute really quick and just kind of like shout them out because I want to hear.
I wish people were nicer to each other.
I was
People
say
need
I
love, more
don't like
support.
the negative. People are always like looking at the
Yes.
glass half empty. Yeah. Negativeness.
I love it.
I don't like that money drives the world. Literally.
I love it. Anybody else want to share?
I don't like how we shame people for having different opinions.
Yeah.
I don't like that there's people out there that don't believe that mental illness is real. Like, they just think that if you pray hard enough, you're going to get fixed. And that's not true.
I love these. Okay, so I get so excited for these. You guys are awesome. Okay, so here's what I always tell people who always ask me, like, you know, how do I find my passion? How to find my purpose? And there's a lot of questions that will lead to that, and we'll kind of get into some of them. But the first one that I always ask people is like, really, like, what drives you crazy? Because what drives you crazy is the thing that you're going to be most willing to fix in yourself and those around you, which is going to make an impact on the world. And so I love these. One, I will say this, like, I'm going to give you guys some insight from like a different perspective of some of these. So the mental illness one, I love that because everybody technically has like struggles with depression at some point or another in a small form, but really that's so different than what actual depression is. And I, like, as somebody who's like a very optimistic person and like, you know, not like, it just, I don't understand it. Like, and I always tell people that, like, you know what I mean? And I think it took me a long time to understand that, because I used to be like, oh, I used to be one of those people. I was like, yeah, just like, it's fine, like, just do it. Like, people will ask me, and this is like, you know, one of my best qualities, and it was one of my worst at the time, was like, where people would be like, oh my gosh, I'm struggling with this, and I'd be like, that's fine, just go do it. Like, it's fine, like, it doesn't matter, just get out of bed, like, stop, like, cut out TV, like, it's simple, you know what I mean? But the reality of it is that it's not simple. And so something that helped me make that shift, and so if you're as you're talking to people, because I love that you're doing that, there's going to be a lot of people who are like me and don't understand it. And I think that's they don't understand it because they've never felt it. And for me, it took that, like, for me, it was understanding that most people aren't going to be optimistic. Like, it's like, most people are going to be negative. Most people are going to, you know, I mean, like how their brains are wired, like there's, you know, realist, pessimistic, and optimistic, right? Like, and so you have all these different things. And it took me a while. Like, I was like, I couldn't understand why people were like functioning one way and not the other way. And I was like, it's just like, isn't it everybody just supposed to be like happy all the time and like positive, which is like the complete opposite of somebody who feels depression and struggles with something like that. And so, but the biggest shift did come for me when I could find it in myself, not depression, but the fact that I was different. And so if somebody ever was like, hey, like, you know, yeah, like, you just go like do this, and here's your, like, go figure out depression or some mental illness this way over here, and they really don't believe it, you just have to help them find, and this is like totally irrelevant, but I feel like I should tell you this. So you just got to help them find in their brain how they see the world and how that's different than everybody else, and how they're literally just wired to think differently. And then they're like, yeah, I totally am wired to think differently. And they get all like egotistic, they're like prideful, you know, they're confident. They're like, yeah, I totally am awesome, I think different. you know, once again, I'm using myself as an example here. So, but literally, and then somebody was like, exactly. And the way that you're wired that way and that you feel and you think that way is the same way that somebody is depressed. You don't understand how they think and they don't understand how you think. And so you have to really be okay listening to somebody who's been through it and understanding it to be able to understand it and not to try to assume anything. And so as you're like, I love that one. I think that's a huge one that's missed in a lot of markets. And it's one that I think is so important. I have a lot of business partners that like focus on that kind of stuff. But I always like straight up, I'm like, you know, that's one that I don't know how to tackle, but I will say it's one that needs to be tackled. And like I said, it's just getting people like me. So if I was like the person that's like arguing that, right, it's getting people like me to see that it's a real thing, you know, that there is real things that really happen. And if you can do that, then now I'm accepting of everybody around me. So it sucks because that one's like, you don't want to have to convince the world of anything, but ultimately with any dream that you have, you're going to be, I don't sell to people that don't want to be sold to, but you do have to change mindsets. You have to shift, what is the best way to put this is deconstruct their beliefs, right? And so this is good. And you guys should do this for your clients. I'll just kind of talk about it really quick anyway. Anytime that you're selling to somebody or you're working with somebody, the best thing you can do, people always say overcome their objections. Well, one better than overcoming somebody's objections is to deconstruct their belief before they even get on the phone with you, before they even start messaging you, before they're even like in that space where they can ask you questions, right? And so deconstructing their beliefs. How do you do this? Obviously, you can use like your social media. It's all through your perspective of the world and how you get them to see it. So if somebody said to me right now, like, okay, so like I have like high-end programs, right? If somebody said, hey, look, money's an issue, like, I don't know if I can afford this like high-end program, then like I automatically know like their belief is that money is going to control their decision. And they know they want this, but their belief is that they can't have it until they figure out how to make money. But this is the thing that's going to help them make money. So I understand their thought process in that. And so for me, if I just get on Facebook Live and I'm like, hey guys, like, let me tell you guys this. And I talk about money mindset. I talk about like how, you know, my story of investing, you know, $60,000 into a mentor here, you know what I mean? And like all these things that I've personally done when I didn't have that, you know what I mean? And when you go into those stories, now it deconstructs the way that they think and then you overcome their objections sooner. So with all of these, I love it because you guys can totally take the opportunity to deconstruct some beliefs, which will put you guys as kind of people that are creating an impact, people that like, you know, can create influence over others. And I think that's really big. So I love that mental illness one. Sorry, I kind of went around there, but okay. So let's do this. So shaming people for thinking differently, money drives the world, people being less negative and everybody being nicer to each other. So I love all of these things. So now my next question for you guys is, now that you have that down, you know, like what drives you crazy about the world, like what are you like excited about? Like what excites you in life? What makes you like the most happy? And you could write like a few different things, but I would keep it between 1 and 3.
I love helping other people accomplish things, whether it's financial goals, whether it's health goals, things like that. Like I enjoy helping other people like feel joy in their journey as well. Like
Joy. I love that word. Cool. What else we got?
I love to teach. I absolutely love to teach.
I love it. When you say teach, do you like teaching to a group of people, one-on-one, or all of the above?
I can do both. I'm not afraid to get up in front of a crowd and have to give like a whole speech on something. Like when I took personal counseling and presentation and stuff like that, I could totally wing it and I could sell. This sounds really, you know what I'm talking about. I could sell the crowd. I just take them in, and I love feeling that, and I love having any amount of inspiration for somebody or helping them reflect or helping them grow. Like I just love to teach people and teach them something they don't already know.
Love it. All right, let's do like one more. All right, I have some on the chat. I'm gonna pull this up really quick. Boom, boom, boom. New things, adventures. Yes. Okay, so new things. That's Lori. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, so new things. I'm gonna write that one down. New things and adventures. Okay, now I want you guys to write down, what are you actually good at? Like, what are the skills that you have or that you want to have? Like, it doesn't have to be something you currently possess. Like, what skills do you have or want to have? And then same as before, once you have it, just go ahead and like shout it out.
I'm really empathetic.
Oh, empathetic. I was gonna say I'm good at compassion, like compassion for others.
I don't mean to toot my own horn here, but I'm totally amazing at making people feel better. Like I don't know. I try to teach my children because I know what it's like to feel invisible, especially in a group of people, and I hate that feeling. And so whenever I'm out and about, I try to always make comments to people around me, whether I know them or not. Like, it's one of my husband's least favorite things. He's like, "Can you please stop talking?" And I'm like, "No," because like a lot of people are insecure, and I don't like it when people feel insecure. And so I've always been really good about helping others to feel better about themselves, no matter what kind of thing.
No, I love that. I love it. All right, cool. So here's what I want to talk about, because I've seen this kind of pattern, and I love it because there's, so, you know, I guess so women empowerment. So I own a company called Female Entrepreneur Empire, right? And people always ask, like, well, why aren't guys invited? Well, we use guys, like we have, like, you know, like we have guy speakers come, we like have, you know, people in our audience that are like, not our audience, but like people that are our event team sometimes are guys. And so like, there's something amazing about masculine energy supporting feminine energy. And so it's not that like, it's a thing to tear men down, but here's what I'm going to talk about right now is so know where my intentions stand with this is the feminine side of things, you guys. And a lot of people think that feminine energy can't be like powerhouse, like business successful, like strong, like, you know, have an opinion. Like they think that that's all masculine traits. But if you actually study masculine and feminine energy, it's more about the way that you think, the way that you think, and the way that you feel, and the way that you're going to respond. Versus like, you know, if you are like strong or like outgoing or like, and so like as women in business, sometimes it's easy to we get to this place where we're like, try to lead like somebody else, and or we are told for the way that we lead. This happens to me all the time. I'm a very bold personality, you probably can tell. Like, oh, you're so masculine. And I'm like the most feminine person I've ever met in my life, if you actually understand masculine and feminine energy. And so here's what I want you guys to know. And I wasn't gonna talk about this, but I really feel like I want to go here, is what you guys are creating is so needed. Like I look at this and I'm like, okay, like what drives you crazy about the world? That people aren't nicer to each other, you guys. That money drives the world, right? Like that people shame others for having a completely different opinion when it's a perspective. That's really all it is, right? That people are not like admitting to the fact that there is real issues in the world like mental illness, right? And so there's all these things that are kind of being ran in this crazy way. And clearly, if you look at it from this standpoint, masculine leadership isn't bad and supporting isn't bad, but feminine energy is the thing that's kind of gluing everything back together right now, because that's what as women we are really good at. We're really good at going in and making everybody feel loved. We're really good at going in and being empathetic. We're really good at empathetic. We're really good at going in and having compassion for the person sitting across from you, right? And so we're really good at doing all of these things, and business is your tool. And that's what I want you guys to understand, is that, like, you know, I know we're going to have goals, and I'm going to talk into the business side of things in a second, because I definitely want to give you guys some good actionable steps to go grow your business, so you guys can go make that difference in the world. But one thing that is crazy to me is people always ask me, like, well, why do you work with female entrepreneurs? Because they're powerful, because they are what is going to kind of, once again, glue the world back together. If you change one woman, and I tell this all the time, like you can change one person here, like one woman specifically, right? And then she can impact her family and change her family's life, kids, husband, all of it, right? Now she can go out, and her family as a whole goes out and they make a difference in the community. And when there's a difference made in the community, now there's a difference made in the economy and then the world, right? And so when you look at bigger things, and I don't like, you know, if your goal isn't to go change the world, that's okay, right? If your goal is to change your community or whatever level of that you're on, that's okay, but it's needed. And so here's what I want to say. On the days that you're having your hard days, it's so easy to be like, you know what, you're right. Just a female. I got all this other stuff to go. I have all this other stuff going on. Like I need to tend to my kids. I need to do this. I need to do this. But what we're missing here, and this is a really big piece, is that women are like the future of like the world right now. Not that it's like, I mean, men are too. Like you guys, my husband supports a mission. He's our MC at our event. He shows up. He's like amazing. He has his own thing. He owns 3 businesses. Like he's good. You know what I mean? He got his own stuff going on. But so it's not a thing against men, but it's what's needed in the world right now is that glue, is that empathy, is that compassion, is all these like beautiful, amazing things. But We have all these negative things tearing us down. We have our past realities. We have all these things we're stopping because we get busy. And people like, I had somebody call me yesterday and say, Alyssa, how do you do it with 2 kids? I don't even know. And I was like, are you kidding me? I have my kids more than most people have their kids. Like what everybody doesn't see is that my kids only go to a nanny from like 9 to like 1:30. Like other than that, like I have my kids with me all day, every day. Like, and that's only Monday through Thursday. So 3 times a week, do I not? And and so it's like, we have to find ways to incorporate like that, like nurturing part of us into our businesses, into what we're doing. And so I want you guys to recognize, like, obviously this isn't necessarily tied back to what you're creating right now, but it does. It so ties back. And so if your goal is to, help people, well, if what drives you crazy about the world is people are not nicer to each other, they need to be nicer to each other. That's just one example. Okay. Then guess what you get to do? You get to go out and you get to start and you get to be nicer to every single person you meet, which means if somebody messages you, 20 times on Facebook, you don't get annoyed at them. You don't send mean things back. And, and if you do it, you're okay. And you're like, you know what? I see where they're at. Just recognize where people are at. It's okay. It's okay for somebody to be in a different spot, in a different life, in a different situation. Coming back to shaming people for having a different opinion, don't shame them. And so I love this. I want you guys to look at this and think, when you think like, what's my passion? What's my purpose? Am I making a difference in the world? Right? Like, cause we get it. Like, and I'll be super vulnerable every week before an event, and we have an event next week. Like every week before like an event, literally what happens to me is I start to get this like thought that comes to my head is like, oh man, people hate me. People like are like, think I'm crazy. Like people don't like me. Right. And I'm like, it's because I'm getting ready to go in and change more lives than ever. Right. And so, and like in that moment impact a lot of people. Right. And so in that situation, it's easy for me to go, why am I doing it? Because here's the thing, your kids are a good reason for your why. That's awesome. But it's not everything, your spouse might be a good reason. Getting out of debt might be a good reason. You know what I mean? Like you're going to have all these different whys and these things like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? And none of them, unless you can paint them back, the road back to how it actually saves a life, will make you move. Because let's be honest, like, oh my gosh, like I love my daughters. They're beautiful. They're amazing, right? 3-year-old, 8-month-old. Okay. So crazy, right? One just learned how to crawl and I'm like terrified right now. Like she's gonna do something crazy. I don't even know. And so literally you guys, like it's crazy. But the thing is, if my thought was like, oh, I'm just going to do it for them. Like I'm just going to show them that life can be better. That will get me so far, right? It will only take me so far. So when you look at this goal and you think people are being nicer to each other, let's take that one, for example, people being nicer to each other. That would actually save lives. Like I'm talking like actually save lives. And so how do you, in those moments of like, I just want to watch Netflix or I just want to get on Facebook and scroll, which is like a whole other topic. I wish we can totally go into if you guys want to, but you know what I mean? Like you get into this phase of like, I'm busy or I got this going on or, oh, like I just need to clean my house or I need to get this done or all these things. But what you don't understand is that every moment that you're not taking action in bettering yourself. So it's not always just business related. I'm not talking just like work. I'm talking in general as a whole, right? Like to better yourself, better your family, or better your community, which is going to be through your business, right? If you're not taking, every time that you're not doing something like that, what's happening is people are actually, and I'm going to go here, I'm going to be a little bit bold here, but people are actually passing away and dying or being killed or not being understood and committing suicide. Like this one, like a mental illness, it's a real thing, you guys, 100% a real thing. And the longer that we kind of, sit in our own crap and like our reality and our past reality, like the longer that we sit there, the less impact you can make in the world. And so my goal for you guys today, everybody here, to just realize the potential that you have. Like if I could do one thing for you today, it would be to shift that you believe in yourself and that you believe that it's possible. Because if you believe that it's possible, you can do it. But the moment you don't believe it's possible, you won't. And here's what I'll tell you guys too, a tip about sales, right? Going back, sales is everything. You sell your husband on what dinner you're going to eat at night. And I get first, I mean, maybe eventually just like, okay, cool, whatever. But when you first meet people and you first have to interact them, it's selling them on, okay, well, which, gym are we going to go to? Which this are we going to go to, or which airline are we going to use? Like you're selling them every conversation you have, whether you know it or not, you're selling somebody else's product and or service, right? Every single conversation that you have with somebody. And so understand that the only thing that keeps people from buying, and this is what I will say, people don't buy for 2 reasons. 1, they don't see that it's possible, or 2, they don't believe it's possible for them. That's it. If I said, hey, is it possible to be a millionaire? You guys would be like, yes. For some of you though, if I said, hey, is it possible for you to become a millionaire? You might say no, right? And that would mean that if I was trying to sell you into being a millionaire, I wouldn't be able to sell you because guess what? You don't even believe it's possible, right? And so when you're thinking about like the mission that you have, right? Like the message that you're out to kind of share, like, money drives the world. Awesome. People believe that. It's very true. It's actually kind of sad. People are a slave to money, and really money is a tool that we should use. You know what I mean? It's just a resource, just like water. And so when people understand that though, like when some people are going to understand that, some people aren't. And so trying to, once again, I don't like to overcome objections. It's more about deconstructing the belief beforehand. It's going to be really powerful, but understanding if somebody's not buying what you're doing and it's a money issue and they're like, oh man, money's like, I just don't have money right now. I'm going to tell you guys, everybody has money in their bank account, even if they only have like 2 pennies. Like I had somebody sign up for a $5,000 program and she had like less than $10 in her bank account. You guys, I'm saying like, this is like the thing. And it's not because I was bad and I was like, oh, like go get a credit card and do all this. Like, I didn't force you to do anything. But here's the thing is that money's everywhere. Money's sitting all around you. If you go put gas in your car today and you say you tell somebody else you don't have money, you're lying because you do. It's not a priority. So what you get to do and think in your vision for the world, and obviously tie this back to business, take this in your company as well. Your vision for the world is to move and showcase all of these things. So if money is something, once again, I'm going to come back to that because it's just an easy one, but it's something that a lot of people let run them. You get to figure out what are your money priorities. What are your things? Because if you're trying to sell something and you're like, oh man, I need to sell this, but I have all this money just myself and I'm not working through it, that can be really tough. So here's a fun challenge for anybody who wants to do this, to work on your relationship with money. And this will tell you where you're at. And maybe you guys could 1 through 10 this for me. So I'm going to give you an assignment. I want you to tell me on a scale from 1 to 10, how willing you would be to do this assignment. A 10 being like, I'll do it right now today. That's totally fine. And a 1 being like, never could I see myself doing that. And it's okay. There's no judgment wherever you're at. I've done this assignment many times and there have been times that I was like, not going to do it. Okay. So wherever you're at, it's totally cool. So 1 through 10, if I said, I want you to go ask 10 people, 10 strangers that you don't know for $1 and not explain why. Like not because, oh, I have this lady who was like a mentor and she like told me to do it. But I said, go ask 10 people for $1. Don't explain why. And you have to get at least $1. So you ask your 10 people, hopefully you'll get more than $1, right? But let's say you hit 10 and you haven't made $1. Great. You get to keep going until you get $1, right? And so at least 10 people and then minimum that you create $1. What would you guys say on a scale from 1 to 10? How excited would you be to do that assignment today or tomorrow?
I'd be terrified. It's probably a 2 for me. To like talk to people for $1 without explaining. Yeah.
Okay, I love it. What else? Who else is thinking?
5.
I'd be at 0.
Okay, so we was at a 0. Who was at a 5?
Me. I was at a 5.
Abigail. Love it. Okay, so we have a 5. All right, perfect. Anybody else want to share? Hold up your fingers if you like can't unmute yourself. Just like hold up like where you're at right now. I totally want to know. I got to go back to the other screen. All right, really quick, hold it up again. Sorry, I like was on the wrong one. Okay, perfect. So you guys, so this is awesome. This is gonna show you where you're at, like with receiving money. So this assignment is great for like just that, receiving money, because it's really not about the ask. Obviously, people will assume stuff, and you're like, oh man, somebody might assume that I'm poor or I'm broke, or maybe I'm just I'm the kind of person that like complains about the person standing on the side of the road asking money. So I would feel like that person. I don't want to be that person. And I've heard it all. Like I've heard a million reasons why this assignment sucks. But once you do it, you actually learn a lot about how you think about money. So I definitely know that the 0, you can definitely get there. I think that you all can do it. 1, 2, those are low numbers. Even asking one person for $1 is kind of tough. It can seem kind of tough, but once you do it, it actually works out. And I'm gonna tell you guys a story because it's hilarious. The first time my husband and me did this, we were creating a program for some of our clients, and we were like, well, how do we put them through like the most rigorous like mindset breakthroughs? Like we need this to be like really extreme. What are we gonna do to make money? Like not for us, but like to help them break through their money beliefs so that they can make money. And so we came up with this assignment, and but here's the thing: I will not teach something without doing it. And so we were like, okay, we're gonna do this. So the whole way we're like, we're gonna go to a Walmart that's like, because Walmart has a lot of people, okay? So we're like, we're gonna go to a Walmart that's literally like 30 minutes away from where we live, so nobody knows us, okay? And so we were like, okay, let's do that. The whole time there, we're like, this is awesome. This is gonna be easy. It's so simple. You walk up to somebody, say, hey, can I have $1? They say yes or no, and you walk away, and you go to the next person. So easy, right? So we get so pumped up, and literally we start to go. We drive there. We're super excited. The moment that we have to like open the door to get out of the car, we were like, wait, hold on. And we both like closed the door, and we were like, wait, I have a lot of stuff coming up. And you start to notice like at first you're like, I could probably do this. It's fine. You talk yourself into doing it. And you're like, oh my gosh, like all this junk comes up, and you're like, I don't know if I can do this. And then everything that said like, you're not worthy, you're not worth it. You can't make money. You don't have this much money. So how are you going to go do this? Like, why would somebody give you money? You can't justify it, which is one of the hardest things I've had to learn in my life, is not justifying. And so all these things like start to come up and you're like, oh my gosh, you guys, it took us probably a good 45 minutes to get out of the car to ask the first person. What happened was I was so nervous. I was like, you go on that half of the store and do not come on my half, because I do not want you to see me or hear me asking somebody for $1. That's so embarrassing. And then what I want you guys to think about is, who would you approach if you had to go ask somebody for $1? If this was your assignment, and it's not because your kids are like crying and need food, right? Like, but in general, just because you're working on your money energy, if you had to go ask somebody for $1, who would you actually approach? And so for me, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to approach like women, because they're nicer than men, you know, and men intimidate me. So then I was like, I'm not going after men, I'm going after women, right? So I started to like create this like strategy in my brain of like what was the best way to approach people in Walmart. And there were so many funny stories, not like seriously, like the thoughts of like, you're going to die and all this horrible stuff is going to happen. You know what I mean? Like I got through like my first 5 people, met up with my husband. He was at like 2. And I was like, how are you only at 2? And it was just so funny because literally I was like, okay, let's do this again. Let's go again. And I remember we started, I was walking and I actually saw my stepdad's mom, sister, granddaughter, like all of this, like people over here that like I was supposed to be at Walmart. I didn't know anybody. And they like literally come here. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so great. Like, why are you over here? And I'm like, well, yeah, we were just driving around. Not a big deal. We got to go pick up our daughter in a little bit. Like, you know, and I was so like, you know, when you're like trying to overcome something and people like in your life come back in and you're like, why are you showing up right now? Because they don't believe in what you're doing. It was totally one of those moments, but like times a million. Okay. And so literally I'm like stressed out. I'm like, what is happening right now? And they're like, it's so cool. We just saw Omar. It's so cool that you guys like divide and conquer. Right. And I was like, what the heck? Like, how is this happening to us right now? So I was like, it's fine. I'm just going to tell them goodbye. I'm going to run to the other side of the store. I'm going to like start asking people over there. So I did that. I met up with Omar and again, and I was at like 7 now. And I was like, okay, cool. I just got a few more. We were at the back of the store. And it's like, I'm just going to walk to the front of the store. And as I walk to the front of the store, I'm going to ask 3 people, boom, boom, boom. And I'm going to call it good. And I had yet to make $1. So I was potentially staying longer because I had to at least make $1, right? And so literally, it's funny, we were standing there and then Omar was like, you know what, I'm going to start asking employees because they can't tell you no. Like, I mean, they can tell you no, but they can't tell you get away from me, you're psycho. Like, you know, because they have to listen. You walk up to an employee and they're like, they expect you like, oh, do you have a question, sir? You know? And so it's so funny. He's like, it's super excited. He's like, he gets all pumped up, created this better strategy, right? And he's like, I'm going to go do this. And so he literally starts to, sorry, I'm not getting notifications. But anyway, he like gets all excited. He wants, gets super pumped and he's going to go and he starts to go ask the guy that's like doing the photo area, right? And literally as he's doing that, completely different, my brother's girlfriend pops out from behind the kiosk, like photo machine, and is like, Omar, why are you asking people for $1? Like, can you imagine trying to overcome this fear of like all your money stuff, all of these like things that you like, it's just so like, you're already like so high anxiety anyway. And then like, not only do you have like your stepdad, like the whole entire family at the store, and at the store that nobody was supposed to be at, right? And then your brother's girlfriend's right there. And like, I saw the whole thing and I was like, I'm so embarrassed right now. Like, she can't know why we're asking. We can't justify it. So I don't know. I just want $1. You know what I mean? Like, that's so hard to say. And so, especially because in sales, if you use the word because of this, you're more likely to get a return, a response, right? And so it was super hard and it totally tested like all of our emotions. And then as we're walking out of the store, so he finished his stuff and he like booked it out. He's like, I'll meet you in the car. Let's go. And I was like, all right, cool. I just got 3 more. And so I'm walking back and I literally see this and I was like, okay, fine. Now I'm going to do multiple people. So if I can do like a group of people, that will make my 3 a lot faster. And then I can be done, right? And so I go up to this mom and this lady and her daughter. She was like older. So they were like, you know, like her daughter was like in her 20s. And I was like, hey, do you guys have $1 I can have? And the girl was like, why do you need $1 for? And I was like, oh, I just need $1. And like the mom like almost got like super defensive and kind of wanted to like, well, if you're not going to tell me why you want $1, then why would I give you $1? And like argumentative. And I'm just like, I don't know how to handle this. And the girl was like, oh, I get it. You're playing a game and you can't tell me why. And I was like, I really just need $1. And she's like, okay, here. And she handed me $1, right? And I was like, oh, thank goodness I got $1. But as she hands me the $1, here comes everybody and their dog, right? Like, so Ivan's whole entire family, like literally everybody, like, and the little kids are like running up to me, Lisa, and like running over here, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then this is what they say. You just know everybody at this store. I've seen you talking to like everybody. You just are like, you must know everybody. How do you know everybody over here? And I'm just like, oh, it's fine. I really have to go. And I like seriously like said, thank you. I booked it out the door and I like ran for my own family. Okay. Like you guys, it was like the most traumatic, crazy thing ever. But here's what I learned. Who I'm going to target, who I feel comfortable talking to, and who I didn't ask one single guy. Right. And I was like, okay, there's something with that. I need to figure that out. Right. B, that some people are nice and they just want to help in the world. And then that girl was like, look, I just want to do this. Like, okay, I get where you're at and I'll meet you. So even though, and here's the other thing, yeses are going to happen and so are nos, and that's okay. when you ask 10 people, sometimes you get a yes, sometimes you get 10 no's, right? Like the other day, I was like, oh, cool, we're doing this. And I literally was like 34 people of this one thing. And I started counting my yeses and my no's. And for the first time ever, my yeses completely outweighed my no's. Like, you know what I mean? And I was like, this is really weird what's happening right now. Normally if you get 6 no's, you get like 1 yes, you know what I mean? And I was like, oh, but I got like 6 yeses and like 7 yeses and 6 no's, right? And so it's crazy because you start to recognize your numbers and see the strategy that you change. And also what I learned is how fast to adjust your strategy, right? And also how to run from people in the store that you don't want to talk to. So there was definitely a lot of takeaways. So anybody who that's definitely a really good challenge that will help you break through a lot of your beliefs. So I definitely would challenge anybody that, wants to go crazy and go for it to at least try it. But okay, I love it. So you guys know what you're passionate about. You got this. So, okay, so back to the world, right? So here's the thing. If you don't do it, who's going to? And that's kind of like the biggest thing in like leadership is if you don't get on and actually go like forward to like take that step to change the world, that's not going to happen. And if you have a higher power of some sort, whatever that is for you, this is a true statement. You take one step forward and the universe or God or like whatever, your higher self, whatever it might be, is going to take 1,000 steps to align everything for you, which is why sometimes when you take some action in your business, even though you're at home and you're like, I'm just going to overcome my like fears, and you start to like beat your fears down and like overcome them, all of a sudden randomly somebody will like come up over here in a completely different way, right? You weren't even expecting it, and somebody will show up in your life needing some type of product or service or just something that you need. They'll be able to give it to you because you'll be taken care of. And so just remember, have that faith of like, if I take one step, 1,000 things are going to happen and align for me. And that's what, yeah. And so in changing the world, that's what I would say. I mean, there's so many things I can seriously go forever. I think I love all of your guys' responses to these questions. Okay. So what I want to do, so we only have a few more minutes left. What I want to do is, I want you guys, if you have any like business questions, I definitely want to make sure I like answer them really quick. So we have like 5 minutes left, but does anybody have any specific things in your business where you're like, this is what I'm struggling with, this is what I need to do, and how do I do that? Like, just unmute yourself and go there, and I'll just write some down, and we can totally just like answer some and give you guys some strategy, whether it's social media, whether it's branding, whether it's, marketing, people, time, XYZ, you name it. Here's what we'll do before this. Actually, I want everybody that's on this right now, I want you to think, what's the biggest, one of two questions, either A, what's stopping me from making money right now? That can be like, and then like answer that for me. Or B, what's the biggest struggle am I having right now in my business? Building my business, what is the biggest struggle I'm having? And then I totally want to go through and I want to get all these answers. So I want everybody to answer those. So whether you answer in the chat and or you unmute yourself and answer, either way is totally good.
I think mine is that deconstructing the like money belief, because everyone's like, oh, I can't afford it. And I'm like, well, everyone has money, but how do I put that into words and actions into deconstructing their belief?
Got it. Love it. Okay, cool. I'm going to answer these as we go so that it doesn't get so bogged down. So I'm going to answer this, and then I want you guys to be thinking of the other ones. So how do you deconstruct their beliefs? So basically, you just have to figure out why they think that way. And so for me, let's do the money one. I think that's like the easiest one to target. That's kind of a good example. Most people, I don't have money, right? And so it's like, okay, that's great, but that's hard to deconstruct. So you say, okay, well, why don't you think you have money? Or like, why can't you spend money? Or whatever it is. So for me, a lot of times I hear, well, like, I only make this much amount of money, and like my husband makes all the money, and like my husband's gonna tell me no, he doesn't see the vision of what I'm doing. And so then, the belief isn't actually a money belief, it's actually I don't know if I'm supported in my relationship belief. And how do I overcome that? And or like I'm not worthy of it. And so then you have to overcome like, yes, you are worthy of it. And so it's really figuring out what's the actual belief and like taking it down as many times as you can. I had a mentor once say, what people tell you is the problem is not the problem. It's actually 3 levels deeper than that. So you have to ask 3 questions to get to that problem, of the real problem. And so when you start to let's say you're messaging people on Facebook and you're talking about the product or you're calling people, and somebody like, you just get like, I don't have enough money, right? Like, and once again, you guys, it's a lie. Everybody has money. Like everybody, even if it's only 2 pennies, everybody has money, and it's just not a priority to them. So when you're deconstructing the belief, you're really deconstructing their priorities, right? And so, or rebuilding their priorities, I should say. And so for you, I would say, awesome. If somebody says, first of all, I'm going to say the tool that you would use is going to be Facebook Live in your posts, because you do a lot of stuff on social media. So that's where like going live and saying, and like telling your stories of like, oh my gosh, like, you know, how have you been empowered? People ask me all the time, like, how does your husband support you? And I'll get on there and I tell stories of like the times that I jumped, that he didn't always think it was going to be the best thing, but I just said, look, I need you. I'm not asking your permission. I'm asking for your support and believing in me right now. Love me more than you are scared of money. Right. And so when I say things like that, people are like, oh yeah, that's true. Like I can do it. And then talking about like how you overcame that and stuff like that. So figuring out what their real problem is and telling personal stories that you have or that other people around you have that are going to relate back, and almost like, once again, it's, you're just reconstructing the way that they think. Right. And so if somebody comes to you and is like in that place where they're the victim, right? Like, everybody around me runs my life. My kids are in charge of my schedule. My husband's in charge of my schedule. Like, I get that one. So I don't have time, balance. What's the balance between family and life, right? And you just got to kind of, and so I'm like, I'm just going to tell people there is no perfect balance, because there's not. Like, and so I get to tell my audience all these different things that happen, and in each moment be at 100%. So then I train my audience that whatever you're doing, be there 100%. So if you're with your kids, be 100% there. If you're working your business, be 100% there, right? And so there's certain situations where sure exceptions apply, but just be willing to tell your audience what your standpoint is on it and your view of the world on that and why. And so for you and all of you, really, because what you do is health, right? So when you look at that, and I always tell people this, your body is the only thing you have from freaking the time that you are born to the time that you die. Like, if you like cannot get your audience to understand that, you're going to have a hard time selling your products. But if you can train your audience to understand that their body is the most important thing in their entire life, even more than their kids, in a sad way. Like, obviously I would pick my kids over my body, but in that sense of like, they really you have to sink it in their brain that, look, without your body, you can't hold your kids. Without your body, you can't do this. Without this, you can't, like, all these diseases and all these things that are happening, right? And so for me, I would totally dive into that, and I would definitely and give them your points of views and why. Why is it your point of view? Use stories over and over again, every day on Facebook. Like, if you're like, hey, I'm doing a launch, I want to do like a skincare thing, right? Like, people are going somebody on an XYZ, right? Then you just get to say, awesome. So what's their real? What's 3 levels deeper? And how do I just blast that wherever I can, whoever I'm talking to? Because then when you say, hey, do you want to buy this? They're not like, if somebody's like, yeah, dude, like my body, like, yeah, I need to get it. And they start to see it as a higher priority. Like, their body's here, like taking care of them is here, right? And then there's like all these other things, and they slowly start to move on that priority sheet. Like, they slowly start to move their body and their health as a higher priority. What eventually happens is it becomes number one. And when you ask for the sell and their body's the most important thing, it's a common sense thing, they'll buy it. Everybody buys food every day because they know it's a high priority. They have to eat. So now you just have to help them deconstruct, so that rebuild their priorities. That kind of help. Sorry, I get so passionate about freaking telling people how the world is. I'm like, so like, do that. Take your beliefs and put them all over your people. Okay, cool. Let's do, it is 10 right now. Dang it, it's 10. Okay, so I love this. So here's what we'll do. Any questions that you guys have business-wise, send them Rachel's way. I don't know if you go by a different name here, but send them her way. And make sure that you guys literally like get your questions in, and I'll take some time later today or tomorrow, and I'll just go through and I'll answer them and give you guys some like quick tips on them, so that everybody can have like really good actionable steps coming out of this. But I hope this was valuable. Did everybody like get something out of this? Did you pick up on at least some things that you know you should to help you kind of move forward?
Yes, I think we're all fired up. Yeah.
Yes.
That was awesome.
I love it. Yes, you guys, seriously, just remember that feminine energy is so important right now, and nobody's going to do it if we're not. So step up, step forward, do it. Love your family. Do not put your priorities down for other people's, and understand that you get to find the balance. You get to figure out what works for you, but also stepping back is not, it's an option, but it's not really an option if we're going to save lives. And I think that's why women are so powerful, because we care about every single life. That nurturing, that empathetic person, right? Like, that's who we are. And when we can show the world all of that, then we can fix all of these problems and all these things that are happening, because it's one conversation away from saving somebody's lives. And actually I've had it happen many times where people that I've connected have literally saved kids from committing suicide. And it's been the coolest thing to watch, just because we held an event, and I was like, I'm never not hold an event again because of that. I didn't even do anything but connect to people, but that's the power of what you're creating and what you're doing. So be powerful, be amazing. And if you guys have any questions, send them her way and I will answer them. I'm going to hop off, but hope you guys have a good day. Bye.
Thank you. Okay, bye. Okay, thanks everybody. Have a great day.